Welcome back to Relax Radio. It is RELAKS, and this is Real Talk with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. We're talking about all these things right now that is happening in the UK, and we're talking about things from the lockdown. The Boris Johnson has been announcing that 17th of May is going to be big changes for England. Yeah, that is a lot of these things happening right now, and the other thing is, the key points to glance at the Queen's speech 2021. That's right, Queen's speech, what this is all about. What is the Queen's speech? Well, we'll be talking about that as we go along in the show. But the topic at hand is travel firms reject overly cautious a green list. Yeah, a lot of these travel firms are not quite on board with this green list situation, that they are offering right now. The government is offering. Well, the travel industry, they expressed a lot of their disappointment, and they say, they're not really quite happy, and they're disappointed that so few countries are on the UK's government's green list for travel, and they describe the announcement as overly cautious, and they are fairly disappointed in this, and they're saying, okay, what is up with this? Why is it taking so much time, and why is the government being so cautious? Well, the traffic light system, it means that travel abroad from the 17th of May is not going to be illegal. So the 12 green country list countries, which include Portugal, Gibraltar, and Israel, will not require people to quarantine on return to England. But, the firms, they said leaving the US off the list would risk the UK falling behind. So travel to amber or red district countries is not advised at the moment. It's not the most preferable thing to be doing. I mean, we got to be safe. Like I said, end of the day, at the point when you think about it, we have to be safe as a community. And if that means, not traveling to certain countries, well, we'll have to take this risk. It's all part of the risk, and it's all part of the reason why we are following this whole green list, this green light system essentially. So like I said, travel to these countries, when it comes down to the amber countries and the red list countries, it's not advised. And, the change in these travel rule applies to England, the Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland have not said what they might ease, when they're going to be easing these whole restriction rules. So only 4 of the countries on the green list are in Europe, and Portugal is the only large holiday destination from the continent on that list. So Israel and Singapore are also included, but Australia and New Zealand, which are approved, as safe by the UK government, are not currently allowing in visitors from abroad. So even if the country is green listed, well, it makes you wonder, even if it is green listed, will you be able to enter those countries according to those countries' protocols? Well, that is a complication right there. That is another reason why this whole green list, just because it's green list in the UK, we're green listing these countries, does not mean that our country is green listed in their traffic light system. It could be, that we are a country that they don't want to accept at the moment. So France, Greece, Italy, and Spain, normally huge of, these very popular holiday destinations for a lot of the UK travelers, are not included on the safe list. So Andrew Flintham, the managing director of the holiday firm TUI, said, while we were expecting to see just a handful of destinations on the green list, this is an overly cautious start. So the Airlines UK representing UK carriers described it as a missed opportunity and a reopening of air industry in name only. So this left the UK at risk of falling behind, especially when it came to these other countries, when you come down right to it. So the EasyJet chief executive, Jonathan Ludgren, said the decision to put so few European countries into the green tier is simply not justifiable by the data or science, and is inconsistent with the approach to reopen the domestic economy. And, they are criticizing all of this. A lot of these big corporations as well are criticizing the fact that the UK is being very overly cautious, especially when it comes to travel, when it comes to air travel, especially. And this is, one of the reasons why a lot of them are not quite happy. So UK citizens, they risked missing out on bookings for hotels if other European tourists were permitted to travel, he added. So many, making the announcement, Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said that the easing of restrictions was necessarily cautious in light of the threat from the new variants of the COVID-19. So yeah, they said, these are just necessary restrictions and protocols that we must follow right now, especially, in light of the recent variants and the recent spread of the variants in the country and across the whole of UK. And when we're talking about these variants, we're talking about the COVID-19, that is the Indian variants. And there's a lot of these subtypes as well right now in the UK. And it is traveling around. And this is one of the reasons why we're trying to cut back down on this. And they've said, the UK's success in combating the virus was not matched in many other countries. Because when you really look at it, I mean, the country is doing their part. I mean, the UK is following all of the rules, all of the protocols, and especially when it comes to social distancing, when it comes to making sure, you keep your hands sanitized, making sure you wear your face masks, making sure the people are vaccinated, are immunized from all of these, for extra protection, for added layer of protection. This is just another piece of armor. And right now, the UK is one of the countries that is best equipped when it comes down to this. So we got most of our population in check. Most of our population have gotten rather vaccinated, and that is great news. Hopefully, the plan is to get, like I said, everyone vaccinated, and get everyone get everything rather running back to normal by the time June 21st hits. So they say all these things are happening, and they're not really quite happy about it. And Grant Shapps also said, that although that we have the most up advantage, especially when it comes to protection against the virus, he said that the list would be reviewed every 3 weeks by the Joint Biosecurity Center. So the team set up last year, to monitor the threats from the virus. So some firms had hoped, the rapid rollout of the vaccination program in the U.S. would allow summer travel to resume there more quickly. So people were kind of hopeful that this would happen, and this is, something that they were kind of looking forward to. And they said, okay, since the UK and the US, and especially when it comes to the US, a lot of them are getting their vaccines rolled out. There's still a large number of cases in the UK. Like I said, around the world right now, the US is number one when it comes down to the number of infection cases rather, in the US. And then comes very, very, very close. It's followed by India, that is going around 19 million cases. Yeah, that's right. That's just a lot of crazy stuff. So they also said, some firms had hoped that the rollout of this vaccine would, resume the travel more quickly. And they say, that there is no reason for the U.S. to be absent from the green list. And they say this overly cautious approach fails to reap the benefits of the UK's successful vaccination program. And this is coming out from a spokesperson from a very popular airline, one of the airlines which, heavily relies on the UK-US traffic. And they say, all of this is a much needed boost to the economy. And this is just something that we need to recover from. So air travel is very much needed at the moment, is what, these countries are implying. I mean, it is fair. If you look at it from that point of view, it is important. And airfare and all of that is important. And hospitality, especially when it comes down to it, is also very important. And it's needed for the country, especially when it comes to traveling and when it comes to the economy. This is just another boost that we need. And a lot of these flights are not very happy about it. And they say, because of the limitations, the tickets prices and all this would easily become even more expensive. That is just something that they are saying. And meanwhile, there a lot of these flights said that they would be increasing their flights to Portugal and other destinations on the green list. Well, most of the countries now, most of the big popular air flight in the UK are setting their sights on the countries on the green list, especially Portugal right now. They're increasing their number of flights and their services to Portugal. So that's something that, you can be looking forward to. So firms in Portugal, like all these tourist dependent firms in Portugal, were quick to welcome the news. So they said, recently one of them said that no one enjoys a holiday more than the British people, and they bring a colorful atmosphere to all of the restaurant, bars, and hotels. So this is a happy moment for everyone, for Portugal, for England, it is a great news. So, yeah, Yao Fernandez, president of the Tourism Bureau, also the Algarve, rather, Tourism Bureau, said that the region was ready to welcome the UK's visitors back. And, they're saying it comes, as the ministers continue to talk with the UEFA about holding the Champions League final between Chelsea and Manchester City in the UK. So, yeah, after the host nation, Turkey was added to England's travel red list. So, yeah, that's just, another issue right there. And if you look at it, Environmental Secretary George Eustace said that the UK had offered to host the match, but it would be untimely a decision for the UEFA. So the UK consumer body, which warned that practical difficulties over taking a holiday abroad would remain. So travelers will have an expectation that these new government rules should protect their health and their money, yet serious issues around lengthy airport queues and a broken testing system remain unresolved. And although international travel has been heavily restricted since January, well, returning travelers have experienced long delays at border control when arriving at Heathrow, sometimes waiting for up to 6 hours. I mean, that is a long layover, and that's not something a lot of people enjoy when you come down to it. This is not, something that a lot of people are not looking forward to, especially these layovers, for waiting in an airport for 6 hours. Come on, guys. That is a stretch even for them. So these private firms, offering COVID tests to returning travelers have been also criticized for failing to deliver tests and results on time. Yeah, that's right. A lot of these private firms and companies that have been suggesting, hey, you can take a vaccine from us. You pay a little bit of money, you're going to get results. It'll be quicker, faster, efficient. But they have been failing to deliver the tests and their results on time. So yeah, this is just drawing a lot of criticism from these private firms and companies. And yeah, like I said, all of this is going on right now. So there's been like a further 15 deaths in the UK within 28 days of a positive tests were reported on Friday, bringing the total up to 127,598,000 people. So yeah, there's just 2,490 new cases of the COVID virus. So yeah, more than 35 million doses though the coronavirus vaccine have been giving, and more than 16.7 million doses have also been distributed and rolled out to the general public. And yeah, these are just news that is happening in the UK when it comes down to this. I mean, like I said, most of these countries are able to go, like the green list countries that you are able to go to include, like I said, Portugal, Israel, and a lot of these other countries. So these 12 destinations have been put on a green list travel for people in England, meaning anyone returning will not need to quarantine from the 17th of May. So if you guys are planning to travel to these green list countries, make sure you check whether the country, first of all, make sure you check out and see if the countries are on the green list, and if they are, if you're eligible to travel to these countries. And yeah, like I said, this whole traffic light system is, it's a new rule, that means international travel is not going to be illegal anymore. So it's going to be legalized, but that is only after May 17th. So, these places that are green list, like the Portugal, Israel, and Gibraltar, have their own restrictions on who can visit from abroad. So yeah, the Turkeys, the Maldives, and Nepal have been added to the England's green list of countries. And on Wednesday, this was on Wednesday, the 12th of May. So meaning travelers from those destinations will have to quarantine in a hotel for 10 days on their return. So yeah, the biggest group is the Amber List, which includes popular European destinations such as Spain, Italy, and France. So yeah, people returning from those countries will have to isolate from home for at least 5 days. But Mr. Shaps, he's been saying that no one should be traveling to those destinations at the current moment. I mean, it is not very much recommended at the moment, at the time. So yeah, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland have not said that when they're going to be easing up their strict travel restrictions. But Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said all four of the UK's chief medical officers agree on the principles behind the traffic light system. So yeah, like I said, speaking especially at a Downing Street briefing, Mr. Shapps said that these changes were tentative and first steps to opening up travel, as there remain concerns about the resurgence of the COVID-19. So yeah, this is just another thing that is going on. And there has been fear and there has been concern amid all of this thing when, especially when it comes down to the point of the virus resurging back in the country. I mean, the cases are gonna there are fears. There have been fears of a possible spike or surge in the coronavirus cases in the country. So yeah, these are just one of the reasons why they're saying, is international travel really necessary at the moment? So yeah, like I said, Mr. Sapp said the success in combating COVID in the UK was not yet replicated in many places abroad. So yeah, we must take the countries we reconnect with are safe. And yeah, COVID tests will be required before and after travel. It doesn't matter whether it's the red list country or amber list country or a green list country. So the long awaited restart of international travel is throwing open the doors, more opening them a crack. So this is just happening. And there's been, a deliberate decision by the government, and they're hoping, to reassure those who are traveling, anxious and who's a little bit antsy and nervous about opening the country's borders, will also be given a small concession to the travel industry. So yeah, the travel industry is also going to be getting a small concession from some of this. So some in the industry are not impressed though, and they're calling this, this list, like I said, a missed opportunity. And they're saying because of this overly cautious, procedures, we're missing an opportunity right here. And many of the transport, they said they've dissuaded passengers from traveling to amber countries and warned them, okay, to expect queues at these borders will be seen as they're trying to dampen down demand just at the moment when the industry was hoping to start to ramp up again. So yeah, these are just, some of the things that is happening right now. And yeah, travelers had also been warned, of the queues at the UK border when they return. So Border Force Director Paul Lincoln said the increased delays would be at each stage of their journey, with staff required to check 100% of all travelers coming through. So yeah, red list countries have the strictest of rules, with only UK or Irish nationals and UK residents allowed to return to the UK. And yeah, they must pay for at least a 10-day stay in a government-approved quarantine hotel. And asked what Turkey being added to the red list means for the Champions League between Manchester City and Chelsea in Istanbul, well, Mr. Sapp said fans should not travel to Turkey. And he added, all of these things that has happened. So the full list of 12 countries and territories people in England especially can travel to without having to quarantine upon returning are Portugal, Israel, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Brunei, Iceland, Gibraltar, the Falk Islands, Faroe Islands, South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands, St. Helena, Tristan da Cunha, and the Ascension Islands. So these are just some of the countries, that some of the places and territories that the people in the UK, in England, that they can travel to. And yeah, these are the green lit countries in the UK. So yeah, there's just some of these things that is happening. So in case you guys are planning to make your travels, well, these are just some of the places that you can go to. I'll repeat them again: Portugal, Israel, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Brunei, Iceland, Gibraltar, Falk Islands, the Faroe Islands, South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands, St. Helena, Tristan da Cunha, Ascension Islands. So yeah, these are the places you guys can travel to if you are planning to travel abroad. If you are planning to, if you're planning to, have a little holiday trip, well, you can do this. But remember, it's going to be a little costly and there's going to be a little hassle. And right now, there is still the risk. There is the possibility of, contracting the virus. So make sure you guys, make sure you do your research and make sure you stay well informed, and you make sure you have the vaccine. You're vaccinated as well if you are going to be traveling to these countries. But enough of that. And yeah, we got to be taking a real quick break, and we'll be right back though after this. Taking a look at your time right now, it is a 4:25. Good evening. And welcome back to Relax Radio. This is me, Nick, giving you guys company on Real Talk. And yeah, we're talking about all the things that is happening right now in the UK. And yeah, one of the things that we were talking about is the green list countries. And yeah, all these countries, that you are allowed to travel to, especially right now. Well, like I said, the 12 countries that you could travel to, like the more popular destinations were Portugal, Israel, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Brunei, and all of these other countries. But as well, Boris Johnson has been saying that he's been making big announcements, and he's been talking big, and he's saying, okay, we are gonna have new plans actually for the UK, and this is what's happening on the 17th of May. There's gonna be big changes in England. Well, indoor hospitality and household mixing are set to return from next Monday, as the PM is due to confirm the next stage of the lockdown. So yeah, this is all the easing of the lockdown in the UK. So yeah, Boris Johnson is expected to say the data supports a further relaxation of measures at Downing Street's news conference later this evening. Yeah, later towards the week rather. And he also could include, guidance that it is now safe to hug friends and your family. Well, Health Minister's Nadine Dorries said she was hopeful that hugging could be allowed, but urged people to act cautiously. Because hey, end of the day, you got to be careful. You got to make sure that you are you got to make sure that you are not spreading any kind of disease, any kind of virus or infection. Because hey, end of the day, you have to be responsible. You have to be accountable for. And yeah, just because the restrictions are relaxing doesn't mean coronavirus is relaxing, you guys. So make sure just because also that you are vaccinated doesn't mean you are 100% guaranteed to be safe. There's always the chance, even if you don't get the virus, there is still the possibility of you transmitting it to someone who might be more vulnerable than you compared to you. I mean, you got to remember, we all are different human beings. All of us come in different shapes and different forms. So because of that, there is also the risks, that just because you can tolerate it or you can't feel any of the symptoms, your immune system might be way more better than other people. There are still individuals out there who are more susceptible to the disease. So yeah, all this, they said, the health minister, like I said all of this, you got to be cautious, you got to be careful. And ahead of the Downing Street briefing, the UK reduced its COVID alert level from level 4 to level 3. Yeah, so from level 4 we came down to level 3. That means that's a good sign right there. This means that the virus is in general circulation, but the transmission is no longer high or rising exponentially, so restrictions can be gradually reduced. So yeah, under the next stage of the government's roadmap for lifting England's lockdown, well, people will be able to meet in indoors of up to 30 outdoors. So yeah, this is just while 6 people or 2 households can meet indoors. So yeah, people are most also likely to to be allowed to stay overnight with those not in their households or bubbles. So yeah, pubs, restaurants, and other hospitality venues such as cinemas and soft play areas are set to be permitted to reopen indoors. So there's something you guys can be looking forward to. You can go back out on the you can go back outdoors, indoors. You can meet your friends, and like I said, there are settings that allow up to 30 people outdoors, and 6 people from 2 different households can meet indoors as well. So that's something, something to be looking forward to. And like I said, pubs, restaurants, other hospitality venues such as cinemas and theaters are, you're allowed to reopen, and then you can go back indoors again. So hey, those are the indoor activities that are being permitted and being relaxed rather, and being slowly reintroduced into the community again. And yeah, the government science advisor said that if the guidance does allow hugs, they should be selective though. They should be brief, and more importantly, they should avoid face-to-face contact, because hey, you don't want to be up on somebody's face and breathing the air that they breathe. Just because, like I said, the chances of spreading the virus are still real. It's still happening. So make sure, you guys be safe on that, and to minimize the risks of spreading the virus. So yeah, Miss Dorries also said the data is looking extremely positive when she was asked if the guidance would be relaxed to allow hugging between friends and family members. And they also said, Miss Dorries also said that, that we've all missed the hugs. We've all missed the close and intimate contact we've had with friends, with family, and I'm hopeful that we will be hugging and kissing again indoors. But just because she said that doesn't mean you should be doing it right now. I mean, there's still a time and place for everything, and there you should still wait until the situation at least dies down a little bit more. So yeah, she stressed that people should take this step a little bit cautiously. And you got to be more careful. We got to avoid all of these interactions for the meantime, at least until this is all to protect the people and the people who are more vulnerable to the disease, and to avoid the possible resurgent or the risk of a spike or a surge of the virus in the country. So this is just some of the measures that we are supposed to be taking, and these are, like I said, these are just some of the things that we should, as citizens, be doing. Well, also it's also a sign how successful our country has been in getting infection rates down. There is no doubt that the next unlocking will take place. I mean, it is it is already happening. The talks are already in place. This is something that is going to be happening as we move along in the show, and yeah, especially as we move along in the roadmap. This is just some of the things that will be happening, and allowing indoor mixing was always the step that concerned experts the most in the roadmap. So this is, given how much easier the virus can spread indoors compared to outdoors. Because when you think about it, when you're in a when you're in an indoor setting, especially when you think about it from that point of view, there's always going to be ventilation. So when you're doing the centralization of the AC, ventilation, all of that, the air is going to be traveling. We're all going to be breathing that same air again and again. So it's just going to be passed around from person to person. And it's because of that, the people have been worried about the possible risks of, getting the virus. And yeah, these are just some of the reasons why people are concerned and why they're a little bit worried of indoors, especially when it comes to the experts. And they are kind of cautious at the moment. So yeah, modeling earlier this year warned that there could be a deadly summer surge. But that right now, that looks very overly pessimistic. I mean, they're saying, hey, there could be a summer surge, but they're not being overly, I guess they're just being overly dramatic about it, is what they're trying to say. And yeah, lockdown and social distancing has done most of the hard work in getting these infections level low, but now the vaccines are going to take the brunt of it. So yeah, the vaccines are going to be taking the whole load of it. And like I said, the lockdown, social distancing, it did play a very big part. If you think about it, the lockdown and all of this did play a really huge part when it comes down to this, especially when it comes down to these kind of things. But at the same time, right now, just because, lockdown and because all with the aid of the lockdown and the restrictions and the social distancing, we are able to pass on this burden on to the vaccine. So once the vaccine is here, hopefully we can get back down to level 1. And that is, the alert level number 1, where everything is back to normal. And we're not going to be facing these kind of issues anymore. And hey, in case you guys are excited and, you're having any plans, or, you're going to tell me, I mean, you guys can always tell me what your plans are when this whole situation is done for. You can call me up and let me know. The numbers are 07852 473 473. Those are the numbers. And also, don't forget, you can check us out on our webpage. That is www.relaxradio.net. And also, don't forget, you can download our app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And hey, we're pretty big on social media. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. We're all on those social media platforms, and we're also pretty big on Twitch as well. So make sure you guys check us out. And hey, getting back to the topic at hand, like I said, a lot of these things right now in the UK, we're going to be, a lot of people are excited. And yeah, it's just, another step forward, a positive step forward, I like to think. And it's all due to the help of the people. More than the government plays the rules, but at the end of the day, it's the people who follow through. So, if you're sitting right there right now at home and you're wondering, whether you play your part, well, you did. So you're allowed to pat your back. And yeah, from the evidence gathered right now, they're more than up to the job in combating this virus. Like I said, the whole vaccine situation. So early signs are also promising for the variants when it comes down to in regards to the vaccine. So some scientists are even suggesting the UK could be on a brink of reaching herd immunity. I mean, those are pretty big words for them to even be suggesting something like that. Hopefully this can happen. Hopefully we are able to get to that point where, we reach the herd immunity. I mean, that is the plan. If that happens, for a fact, we can say for sure that, the country is going to be returning back to normal. So as always with this virus, though, it would be foolish to get far ahead of ourselves, but the signs are looking very promising. I mean, when you look at it, the signs look like, hey, okay, it looks like it's getting better. Like when you check the projections, especially, and the statistics, it shows that the numbers are actually decreasing. So this is just another step forward, and this is something that is happening. So as part of the other measures, to be relaxed, the rest of the accommodation sector is to reopen along with indoor group sports and exercise classes. That's right. So if you're a little bit of an indoor sport freak, well, here is some good news for you. And up to 30 people also are going to be allowed to attend weddings. So yeah, for the people who have been making an excuse and saying, oh, I can't really invite you because so and so, we can invite only 5 or 6 people or just a handful of people. Well, now your excuses are going to be up because, hey, up for now, 30 people are allowed to attend weddings, receptions, wakes, and as well as funerals. So yeah, foreign holidays will also return. So we're going to get to travel again abroad. We're going to get to travel, like I mentioned earlier, travel abroad is going to be possible only for the green list countries. Yeah, so it's all part of the roadmap, what we are doing. And this means anyone returning from these zones will not need to quarantine from the 17th of May. So Monday's announcements of lockdown easing will be stage 3 of the roadmap announced by the government in February, with the final stage scheduled for the 21st of June. So when the government hopes to remove all legal restrictions on social distancing, yeah, like I said, 21st of June is the plan. 21st of June is what we are aiming for. The government is aiming for. So each stage has been separated by a gap of several weeks to follow and allow scientists to assess the impact of previous changes, which in stage 2 included the reopening of non-essential shops and outdoor services in pubs and restaurants. So yeah, the government also has to be satisfied that its 4 stages and these 4 tests have been met before progressing to the next stage. So yeah, these tests rest on the successful rollout of the vaccine. So if the vaccines are successful, well, this is just one of the reasons. So evidence, like I said, these are the 4 tests that the government needs to be satisfied. They need these 4 steps to be, to quench their thirst right now. Or I'd like to say is the best expression when you think about it. These are the 4 things. So these tests rest on, the successful rollout of the vaccine. So if the rollout of vaccines is successful across the UK, and the evidence that these jabs are reducing serious illness and death. So this is one of this, and this is actually happening right now, and the infection rates being under control and the risks from the coronavirus variants are not changing. So this is just some of the 4 tests, the litmus tests that they're pretty much satisfied. The government is pretty much satisfied when it comes to this situation. So the government also said that the latest data suggested that easing restrictions from 17th May was unlikely to risk a resurgence in these infections. So they also said, infection rates were at the lowest level since September 2020, and hospital admissions were continuing to decrease. So that's another breath of relief. That's a sigh of relief for the people at the NHS, the workforce, the health force, especially, a pat on the back for those guys as well. Hats off to those guys for doing so much of hard work and, appreciating all of the efforts that they've done. And it just goes to show, with that they pulled through. They pulled through all of this. And, I'm super proud of, the people, especially when it comes down to the workforce and to the people as well, making sure they are playing their part. So, yeah, on Sunday, the UK recorded another 2 deaths within 28 days of a positive coronavirus test and a further 1,770 cases. So, yeah, Mr. Johnson said, the data reflects what we already knew. We are not going to let this virus beat us. I mean, that's right. That's a good way to look at things. And, yeah, with the decrease in the number of cases and the number of admissions in hospital, it is looking like it is getting brighter. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, is like I would like to say. So the roadmap remains on track, he says. And he further goes on and he says that the successful vaccination program continues and that more than 2/3 of adults in the UK have now had the first vaccine. And now we can look forward to unlocking, and cautiously but irreversibly getting back to normal. So yeah, more than 35.3 million people have received one COVID vaccine dose, and 17.6 million people have had both of the doses already. So yeah, Professor Kath Noakes, a member of the SAGE committee that advises the government, said on Sunday that if people hug their friends every time they see them, it would perpetuate an awful lot of additional close contact that could spread the virus. I mean, yeah, just because, you're allowed to hug your friends doesn't mean you should be hugging them every single waking moment of your life. I mean, I get it. You guys are happy to see your friends again. again. And we can at least be happy for the fact that we're allowed to see them again, and we're not going to be having these restrictions imposed on us. We can hug them if we want to, or shake their hand even if you really want to. But they also said, that Professor Kath Noakes went further on to say that the risks from grandparents who are fully vaccinating hugging their grandchildren was likely to be low in most cases. So yeah, like I said, the numbers of patients in these hospitals as well have been decreasing, and the devolved nations are working to their own time frame for easing restrictions. So yeah, when you take a look at things in Wales, indoor hospitality such as pubs, cafes, restaurants, cinemas, theaters, and museums are expected to reopen from the 17th of May. So yeah, all tourist accommodation is due to reopen, and wedding receptions. Hey, I'm calling out all the guys out there who are planning to get married and looking at, hey, this is a very cheap time to be getting married. Well, 30 people indoors and 50 people outdoors, they can visit your weddings. So yeah, this is just, the requirements set out in Wales. In Scotland, from the 17th of May, indoor hospitality venues are expected to resume with alcohol being served until 10:30 p.m. That's right. So cinemas, theaters, amusement park, arcades, and bingo halls should reopen, and indoors group exercises can restart. And more restrictions may be lifted in Northern Ireland on the 24th of May. And this includes, the reopening of indoor hospitality, B&Bs, and hotels, and indoor group exercises could resume, and wedding receptions and funeral wakes may even restart. Yeah, that's something, that they are hopeful, that they're pretty hopeful for, and they are getting their fingers crossed, and hopefully that is something that can happen as we go along with the roadmap. And if we keep following the roadmap and we avoid the unnecessary physical contact. I mean, fine, you want to hug person, but you make sure you hug them. It's a very brief hug, and you don't hug them and then you get face to face with them, because this is just another way you could spread the virus. Even if you don't exhibit any of the symptoms, you should always remember, just because you don't exhibit the symptoms doesn't mean you are not carrying the virus. And yeah, with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we'll be right back after this short break. Taking a look at your time right now, it is 5:08. A good evening.